So if you're in a pause, know that something inside of you is recalibrating. Like we said, you don't have to force clarity because you just don't have it at that moment. Be okay. Just put a pin in it. Sometimes it comes because you finally stop forcing it. That's the energy, right? What we resist persists.
Yeah. And making peace with the pause doesn't mean you're doing nothing. It means you're trusting that stillness, it's doing its work too. Because, like we said, stillness doesn't mean nothing is happening. It actually means the opposite. There is so much movement, there is so much orchestration happening on your behalf that you don't see, which is why it requires that trust and that honoring.
Good morning, guys. We are your hosts, Lori.
And Shenisse, certified spiritual life coaches, and we are so glad you're here. Welcome to our podcast, Branching In.
Yes, and in this episode, Making Peace with the Pause, we're going to explore how to stop resisting the stillness and start trusting what it's here to teach us.
Yes.
But Shanice, before we begin, we really want you to know that we created this episode as a space where you can digest anything that's come up from the last few episodes, in which we did speak about loving another without losing yourself and when to stay or let go. Our intention is that you sit with what you've discovered about yourself and process any self realizations that have come up. And that can be done by making peace with the pause.
Yes, we really have gotten heavy with it the past few episodes, talking about so many important things. And so, really, our intention is to just sit with everything that we've learned and do that by being in this pause, by embracing the stillness.
Yeah.
So let's start by defining what a pause means. The pause is that space between what was and what's next. It's not quite the end and not yet the beginning. It's the in between, a moment when life asks you to slow down, listen deeper, and trust what's unfolding beneath the surface.
Yes, exactly. And a pause doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're being asked to listen, to integrate, and realign. And sometimes the most important decisions we make come from what we learn in that quiet space.
That's so true. And my ego so much resisted the quiet
Yes.
for years. It still does to this day. Have to kind of like wrangle wrangle it in and be like, nope, we're gonna sit in the quiet. But yeah, and I mean that's so normal. And it can be hard to sit in that stillness, especially, with social media and just so many distractions. It can be just so easy to run away from that stillness because it can be uncomfortable,
Yes.
which is normal. But it's so important. It's so important because that's really where you get to know your inner self and really come to face with all the truths that, we've been running away from for a long time.
Yeah.
At least that's what it was for me.
Yeah. And just taking a breath. And
Mhm.
like it says, just, breathing, realigning, just discovering all of that, creating so much with that pause. But let's, Shanice, start by understanding why we're uncomfortable with the pause.
Ooh, yes. Let's get
I
into
know most of us, myself, you, were like the pause can be very unsettling. And I know, right? And one of the reasons the pause can feel so disorienting is because we live in this culture that glorifies forward motion. Everything is moving, going, let's go. From the time we're young, we're taught to measure progress by what's next, the next grade, the next achievement, the next milestone. Reflecting and waiting are often seen as like you're being really lazy, you're being slow and unproductive and weak.
Yes. And we're praised for doing more, faster, sooner, to the point that even healing and personal growth gets turned into projects to complete instead of processes to live through. So when life asks us to slow down or our souls ask for quiet, we panic.
We
We
do.
think something's wrong, right? We feel behind.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you mentioned earlier about social media. Yeah, we live in the world that we're always on. We're like everything is always on. We live in live. Everything is an instant gratification to show where everybody's at, show the progress. So it's kind of in our face. So it makes sense why it's uncomfortable being in this pause.
Yeah, and then there's, like, the pressure of what we're supposed to do or where we're supposed to be at a certain age. So, like, there's certain milestones where we're like, "Oh, well, we're supposed to hit that milestone within this time frame," and if it's not that, then we're failing. We're behind. Like, this constant racing against the clock.
Yeah, and, when it makes me think of hitting a certain age, I have teenage daughters, and, I mean, I think in school, it's like you go through school, and then when you get to be they say, "18, what are you doing?" I know my daughter's sophomore year in high school, they're already supposed to kind of know what they wanna be.
Which is
Like, otherwise they're
ridiculous.
behind, and she literally has stress like, "Mom, I need to know this," and now she's going into her senior year, but if she does have an idea what she's going into, but if she doesn't, there's a lot of pressure behind that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I remember that. I remember being a teenager and just feeling so much pressure to know what I want to do, to know what I want to be, to like go after it. And God, I would not go back to that for anything. It was
No,
terrible.
me
It
neither.
was
Yeah,
terrible.
I'm still figuring out what I wanna be when I grow up, so my gosh.
Exactly, and it's constantly changing, like, I reach a certain milestone, I'm like, "Okay, cool, I've done that," and then I can take my time figuring out what's next, like, the pressure that we're put under, it's a lie, it's not true, you don't need to know where you're going, you don't need to know what you wanna be for the rest of your life at 17, 18 years old.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Yes.
So what comes up in the pause? So let's talk about that, Shanice. Like we just started talking about what are some of the things that comes up for us when we are in the pause?
Oh my goodness, love this, excited about this section. 'Cause there's so many things that come up in the pause, and most of them are are very uncomfortable. So, for example, like anxiety. So, immediately when I let myself sit in the stillness, there's this anxiety, especially in the beginning when you're not used to it, and the urge to like rush into something to escape the quiet. So, I remember when I first started to be like, okay, I'm going to be still, but I had to like put a time limit because I literally felt like I wanted to jump out of my skin. It was so uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many inner narratives that bring up old stories and self doubt. When we're sitting in that pause, like, I should be doing more or nothing's happening. Why is nothing happening? Because we're just sitting there watching the clock.
Hmm.
And what if nothing's coming? What if I miss my chance, Shanice? Like
Yeah.
that's come up for me a lot in the pause. And it can be very scary because you have all these inner narratives running with you, and your mind is just like, like going.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really normal because in the pause, the noise gets louder at first because you finally have the quiet to hear it. All
Right.
your old programming about your worth being tied to productivity or success will surface.
Good point.
This is your chance to question it. I remember I'd be like, "Oh, I'm doing something wrong because I'm supposed to be still. Why are my thoughts racing?" Like why do I have all these fears coming up? No, it's actually part of the process. It means you're doing it right when all of that stuff starts to come up.
And we're talking about pause. I mean, there's so many different types of pauses. I mean, we have different time frames of pauses, switching from jobs or moving homes or not sure where you want to be, when you grow up. But there's also a pause of just not feeling well, getting sick, being hospitalized. There's that pause.
Mhm.
So we have little pauses and big pauses, but these things all come up in those pauses because again, we're forced to sit with ourselves in more of a still, silent place that creates some of these inner narratives and anxiety.
Yeah. And another thing that comes up in the pause is grief. And that can be a toughie. Grief for what's ending, for what's already ended. And the pause is where grief comes forward, not just for what was lost, but for the identity we had while we were in it. And
Yeah.
it's okay to mourn who you used to be. Even if you know, like, who you used to be, made a lot of unhealthy choices and what you're moving towards is something healthier, it's still okay to grieve who you used to be because it does kind of feel like a part of you dying.
Yeah, exactly. Percent. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. And to take that time. For me, Shanice, really that uncertainty of the unknown.
Yeah.
You know, 'Cause we all want that clarity, like, where am I going next? What exactly is the plan?
Yeah.
Tell me exactly. We want a plan, but in the pause, we often don't get either. We don't get clarity or a plan immediately because, like, right when we get in this pause, there is a pause.
Mhm.
So we're usually getting no clarity, no plan. We're just like, what's going on?
All in the unknown.
Yeah.
So you can't make a plan when you've ended something and you've entered the unknown. 'Cause it's called the unknown for a reason. There is no clarity. You're not sure where this is headed. If you're in the unknown, that means you're trusting. You're trusting and what hasn't come in for you yet.
Yeah.
So, we're sitting in the fog, learning how to trust, not in a certain outcome, but in ourselves and in something bigger than us. And that's not easy, but it is power.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely not easy, but trying to, again, embrace that. You can feel like the world is still moving, but you're not in it. Like,
Mhm.
just sitting by yourself here, which loneliness and the desire, needs to be understood in that place that you're at right there. Friends are achieving, others are moving. And for some reason, that feels really loud, right? Because you're not moving, everybody else moving is louder because you're
Yeah.
in still spot
Yeah.
and you
That causes
go into this comparison mode.
yeah. And then like you panic. You're like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. Everyone else is moving forward and I'm here in this stillness, not going anywhere. Like,
Yeah.
it's
How come they know what they're doing? How come they have a plan? Like everything's going for them and, not even thinking that they've had pauses as
Mhm.
well, but
Yeah.
you just feel like you're all alone.
Yeah, yes. Which can put you in that victim mentality. Like, now you're comparing yourself to other people. You're feeling sorry for yourself because you see your friends achieving all these things and you're just sitting in that stillness in the unknown, having no idea where you're going next, trusting that it's for you. And it can be terrifying.
You have to really believe it without seeing.
Mm.
That's the key, in that pause is getting to that place that you believe without actually seeing it in your physical reality.
Which is not it's not an easy thing to do.
No.
I know for me, so much doubt will come up, self-doubt, like, "What am I doing? Is this really where I'm supposed to be?" And all of that is so normal. That's a part of the process is moving through all that self-doubt, moving through all those fears so that you can then see what it is that's coming towards you.
Yeah.
And really, like, because it's normal, not judging it and just really be a witness to whatever arises in the pause. Because again, that's for you. Those things are coming up for a reason. They're asking to be healed. And so when you can witness it without judging it, you're creating a safe space for it.
Yeah. And you know what, Shanice? That's a very good point. Just not judging it by
Mhm.
observing and not judging. And the reason we judge is because we have viewed the pause as not good. So
Mhm.
to reframe the pause takes the judgment out.
Yes. Oh, let's get into that, Lori. So, what does that look like to reframe the pause?
So to me, reframe a pause, to create more of that being not an end, not a period, but a comma.
Mm,
I love that. Like, okay,
that.
because my ego self would look at a pause as it's an end and
Mhm.
just focus on this is a period. But knowing that reframing a pause is no, this is just a little in between. It's a comma. It's going to continue. And it's also for me, like you said, Shanice, a pause is I can realign and it's for my transformation. So it's for the better of me, for me to be able to integrate whatever's coming next.
And a lot of people can look at a pause as like almost like, oh, like I'm having a breakdown, immediately kind of judging it and labeling it as something wrong. But so let's reframe that. It's not a breakdown, it's a reset. And those are so important. There's going to be moments in life where you need that reset to be able to move from point A to point B.
Exactly. It's actually the step some without taking that pause, we're not going to have the same results. When we actually take that time to take a breath, think about things, the results are so different. I'm going to actually, Shanice, respond. I'm not going to react by taking that pause. We talk about that all the time in like our boundaries. That's another great thing when we go and set a boundary, we're taking a pause. We don't
Yes.
just set the boundary without the pause. We actually have to contemplate and realign And if we didn't take those 72 hours, which we talk about, which is the pause,
Mhm.
we're going to have a different result. I'm going to react. I might going to say things that I don't want to say or mean because I didn't pause. So this pause benefits myself and everybody around me.
Yes. And again, reframing like we're not behind. We're right on time. We are exactly where we're supposed to be.
Exactly.
And it's just that we're now entering a different rhythm than what we're used to.
Yeah.
And so that can feel again, it can feel uncomfortable, but that's okay. And the more you kind of settle into the rhythm, the less uncomfortable you feel. And the more you move from resisting the process to just accepting it and becoming one with it, becoming a part of it.
It's a different energy, Shanice. It's
Yes.
like it's a different energy. We're used to this action energy or doing, moving, action. And the pause is there's still movement in the pause. It's
Yes.
different. It's a different type of movement.
Yeah.
So it's
For saying that. People think like stillness is still.
yeah, because of the word.
Still within the word, right? But it's not. It's
Right.
not. There is so much movement in stillness. It's just our eyes don't see it.
Exactly.
But just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And in fact, our eyes do not see most of what is happening around us. But that's a whole
Exactly.
other episode.
Right, exactly. So, Shanice, we really want to conclude the section on reframing the pause by posing a reflection question.
Yes.
So, when was the last time you felt like you were doing nothing, but everything inside of you was shifting?
Ooh, that's such a good question. For me, oh gosh, I remember like when everything in my life was changing, relationships were falling out of my life, and it felt like my days were spent doing absolutely nothing. But looking back, my God, there was so much movement. There was so much happening, but was it happening internally? And it can be hard to see what's shifting when it's inside you because it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens over a period of months and years. And so hindsight is what really shows you what looked like nothing was not nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, back to what I talked about. It's just getting used to it's a different energy,
Mhm.
and getting comfortable with that different energy feeling of that that stillness.
Yeah. Yes. So now let's move on to what are the benefits of making peace with the pause?
Yes. So, Shanice, the pause is, I love this reference. The pause is a God gap.
Oh, I love that.
Don't you love that? I
You.
Yeah,
It
but
immediately shifts my perspective. I'm like,
yes.
"Wait, a God gap?"
Yeah. So it's the pause, it's not a delay. See, and that's the other thing. We feel like when we're paused, because again, we were thinking we weren't moving, but we just explained how there is still movement going on. So when we remove that and reframe that and know there is movement in the pause,
Yeah.
we know there's movement, there's not a delay.
Yeah.
So the pause is actually moving things for
Mhm.
you, towards you.
Yes.
That's the interesting thing. But anyway, so it's not a delay. It's a divine invitation.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. It's the God gap, the space between what was and what will be. And even though it can feel empty or uncertain, it's actually holy ground. That's where the magic happens.
Yes. Yes, that's the kind of magic that reshapes you from the inside out. And the reason it feels so unfamiliar is because most of the world does not live there, but spirit does, wisdom does. And that's why it matters.
Yes, exactly. And even though it feels like nothing is happening, it's actually where the most powerful transformation takes place because it's in there, in that still uncertain place that you meet your inner self.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And I think that's why it feels so uncomfortable because our ego is so used to protecting us a certain way, doing things a certain way that it's like it doesn't necessarily want us to meet our inner self because it's like, "Oh, it's now losing control." And it doesn't want to lose control.
Right.
Yeah. So that's another reason why that can feel so uncomfortable. But yes, that uncertain place, that stillness is where you meet your inner self. And that's really, where things start to get very interesting.
Yeah, because actually that's the creation is in the pause. That's what we were talking about. It's not always something that can be seen. There's this internal mental process of generating ideas that is equally important.
Than the actual, like, action of it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
That's what
Yeah.
brings that out.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard so many stories of artists who it is equally as important to take time to rest, to create mentally and imagine and visualize in your mind. That may be more important than when it's time to, like, paint on the canvas.
Yeah.
Like, it's the yin and the yang, you need
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, and, otherwise, when you don't take that pause, Shanice, you're forcing it, and I know you and I can talk from experience in creating, we've written a books, we have classes that we've designed, and we've had many pauses while we were creating, and we welcome that pause, and because we things were just not coming, and to let them come in when they needed to come in, and we really worked well with that. And that's what really helped us continue creating everything we've created by taking our pauses.
Yes. Oh, that's such a great point, Lori. Ex Yeah, exactly. And I noticed that when we honored the pause and the
Exactly.
stillness, so many new things came in for us that made our books, all of our courses and everything just so much better. Like it brought more life to them. Things that were like, we weren't sure, oh, well, how does this connect to this? We're like, oh, that's how it connects. Like, oh my gosh, it made the process of creating that much more fun because we weren't forcing. We were allowing and we honored that stillness.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
that is such a good point. It's honoring that stillness because it really did allow us to let spirit lead us while we were creating. Otherwise, we were just being whipped around by our ego and the clock and the time. And so much what came from it is unbelievable. Like just beautiful.
Yes. And we learned like, okay, so now when we're creating and we stumble and we're like, "Oh, okay, nothing's coming in." We don't panic anymore. Oh, we're not trying to force it anymore. We're just like, "Oh, well that's cool. Let's shift to something else." Because we know we're like, "Oh, that'll come in." Like there's no doubt now. It's just like, "Oh, that's part of the process. Can't move forward there. Let's shift to something else. It'll come in." And it does. It always does, which is just, oh, I love it. And there's certain practices that can help really getting the benefit of sitting in that pause and honoring that stillness. So, like breath work,
Mhm.
time in nature, yoga, which I know both of us love, just kind
Yeah.
of recentering our energy.
Yeah, and embracing that it helps these practices, the breath work and time in nature and yoga, just they're practices of being present no matter what is going on. In the pause, out of the pause, just being present. And
Yes.
pause teaches us presence,
Hmm.
really, because that's, to me, what I really get from that pause too is just being present.
Yeah. And what really helps with that is meditation.
Yes.
Yeah. And meditation feels magnificent because as your mind quiets, you slip into that God gap of peace and solitude between your thoughts. So, meditation really helps you to embrace the stillness.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So if you're in a pause, know that something inside of you is recalibrating. Like we said, you don't have to force clarity because you just don't have it at that moment. Be okay. Just put a pin in it.
Hmm.
Sometimes it comes because you finally stop forcing it. That's the energy, right? What we resist persists.
Yeah. And making peace with the pause doesn't mean you're doing nothing. It means you're trusting that stillness, it's doing its work too. Because, like we said, stillness doesn't mean nothing is happening. It actually means the opposite. There is so much movement, there is so much orchestration happening on your behalf that you don't see, which is why it requires that trust and that honoring.
Yep. And it requires reframing how we view the pause for it
Exactly.
to go do its work.
Yes.
All right. Well, Shanice, so to wrap this episode up, we talked about how our culture pushes constant motion. So when we enter a pause, it can trigger the fear and doubt. But when we reframe the pause, we're able to embrace it and receive all the wonderful benefits. Be patient with your unfolding and trust that the pause is not the end of your story, but the part where something sacred begins.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Yes, exactly. The pause is sacred, and the universe's orchestration behind the scene is sacred, and that is for you. That sacredness is for you. It's all happening on your behalf. If you'd like to learn more about us or check out our products and services, click the link in the description. Today's quote is by Anna Michelle. The sacred pause is not a break from life. It's where life begins to make sense. And that's so true. I have found that to be so true just from my all of my experiences in the stillness and in the pause. It really is where my life began to make sense.
Agreed.
Okay. So that's it for this episode. If this episode spoke to you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And thank you guys so much for listening to Branching In with Shanice.
And Lori, join us for our next episode, and we post every day. See you then.